right, good evening, everyone. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the executive director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We are really excited to be here with all of you tonight with the one and only Karen Finley. Karen is an icon and somebody who we have admired for many, many, many years. And so it's really exciting to get to have her here with us in conversation with Nell Ruby, who's one of our favorite folks from right across the street at Agnes Scott College. Nell is a mixed media installation artist interested in exploring the experience of perception. Using common materials, direct drawing, and projected video in large-scale site-specific works, Ruby transforms solid walls into rolling hills, blue skies, and seemingly endless plains of light. Imbued with this sense of play, Ruby's work also brings to mind the darker undertones of a more serious world, one that juxtaposes public and private space, performance and observation, fears, and dreamlike experiences. So when we knew that Karen Finley had a new book coming out, Nell was the first person we thought about to be in conversation with her, and we're so honored that she was available and willing to do this. So thank you, Nell. And Karen Finley is here to read from and talk about her new book, which is called COVID, Vortex, Anxiety, Opera, Kitty, Kaleidoscope, Disco. It's got a great cover and obviously a great title. You'll hear more about it. So I'm just going to introduce Karen first, and then we'll have a reading and then a bit of a discussion. You'll also have an opportunity to ask questions. If you're watching online, you can put your questions in the chat. And if you're here with us in person, just raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. It is important for you to speak into the microphone, even if you have a loud voice, because we want our online folks to be able to hear you. So Karen Finley is an artist, performer, and poet. Born in Chicago, she received her MFA from the San Francisco Art Institute. Finley was the named plaintiff for the Supreme Court case Finley versus the NEA that challenged the decency provision in government grants to artists through the National Endowment for the Arts. Her work has been presented internationally, such as the Barbican in London, Lincoln Center, New York City, Art Basel in Miami, and the Center Pompidou in Paris, among others. She's the author of 10 books, including the one we're celebrating tonight, Grabbing Pussy, the 25th anniversary edition of Shock Treatment, and the reality shows, all of which are available up front tonight. She is a recipient of many awards and grants, including a Guggenheim Fellowship. She is a professor of art and public policy at New York University, and she lives in Westchester County, New York. So please put your hands together for Karen Finley.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And to all of our audience in the virtual world, hello, welcome. And it is just such a pleasure to be here. And before I start reading and then go into conversation with Nell, I really want to express my appreciation for those showing up here today and then supporting me, everything going on in the world, and in terms that you would feel to make that space in your day to come here means a lot to me. And I appreciate and I need your gathering and fellowship. And I want to honor our ancestors who have supported this space for so many years that I could be here and we could be here today. And I know that the world is really hurting, and there's a lot of violence in the world, and a lot is happening in our lives. But I think that 1974, and when this bookstore started, which is just a year after the end of the Vietnam War, and everything that we as a nation and in this area, transformation, what has happened, what has occurred, all the difficulties and challenges that has occurred, this bookstore has stayed here. And I want to honor that because that is so inspiring. And also across from the school that I went and visited today, and that there's a wonderful art department happening. There's wonderful students that are busy doing their work. And we want to think about the young people that are there. And I'm sure that this bookstore is part of it. So I just wanted to say that first. And if I missed anything, I just want to let you know my sentiments and thank you. Now, what I wanted to say is a bit of synchronicity. Is I found an art project that I made where I wrote over photos that are from probably the 50s. And on it, I wrote, "No one makes us angry." And I'd like to start with that for us to be thinking about, because I was doing an interview before I came here with Art Paper, talking about the world and what is going on. And I refused that to say that my humanity would leave me, my art would leave me. That's my resistance. And so I wanted to tell you that too, because I'm not going to let what is happening here take away my humanity, you know? And so when I saw this, no one makes angry, it reminds me, for me, to stay centered and true to my soul joy purpose center. And I just wanted to share that with you, what I was thinking about and what the goddess was bringing me today. So I spoke with Nell, and you kindly requested that I would start with Venus Envy. And that's from my book here. And this book is about processing the pandemic, but not only just the pandemic, but sort of the events, and really about so many different kind of issues at this moment. Tell me, Venus, where are you today? Are you clouds slumbering at velvet ovaries, or as minds and hands of bird feather compassion, gifts of winter roses, a sun glimmers on lace, the obscure, the arrogant, forlorn ghost, sentimentality crumbles like uneaten toast? Tell me, Venus, where are you today? Are you in my eyes, staring into sky and space, withering in sly disgrace? Tell me, goddess, where are you? Where our body is not your body, autonomy, agency will not be taken from us. Our bodies will not be forced to procreate. Our bodies are not our prison. Tell me, love, where is the love and hate? Where is the optimism in violence? Tell me, Venus, where is the humanity in Uvalde? Where is the love in the shooting of Breonna as she slept, the killing of Black bodies out of hate? Where is the love in war? The pain, trauma, horror, the violence remains, forcing a 10-year-old to give birth. Where does love assist in ending violence and brutality? End white supremacy, end the patriarchy, demand justice now. Oh, Venus, dear heart, no more thoughts and prayers. Insist on justice in the name of your sacred heart. Provide and support our empowerment to transform hate with all our creative, imaginative strength and change oppressive, senseless systems forever. And I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to put it here because I have to change the pages. Is that okay for you? Can you see? And now this one that Nell asked me to read, and this is, can you hear me? Is that all right for the recording right now? Okay, great. So this is cooking, and I'm sure that many of us during the pandemic got into cooking or food in a different way. And just to let you know, I am a professional, I was trained as a professional cake decorator in my life. And one of the ways how I got through, there's a little background, we'll talk at the NEA, some of my troubles was actually just making a cake, having a celebration cake. I would just have a cake and just celebrate that day. It was a way I got. I just I I just love a cake. Um, Cooking. Let me make for you and eat for you a hummingbird cake. A delicate, moist, luscious, creamy, dripping, oozing, pus, puss, pussy pastry, pussy, pudding, pussy, dry, puster tree, pastry. or lemon mousse or fingerlings. The cakes and sticky buns are here. Let me lick my lips. Frosting here on my ships. A banana pear upside down wake. There is caramel salties and twinkle biscuit bear flaws, chocolate ganache sliding on clementine aches, apple betty and raspberry hazelnut buckles, celebration carousel chuckles, with water lily marshmallow glaze. The pandemic is steady, ready, out of control. But I am whipping, creaming, baking, blending, stirring, stripping, sauteing, skinning, skimming, icing, frosting, kneading, melting, breaking, grilling, stewing, brewing, whisking, beating, pounding, icing, smoothing, cutting, chopping, slicing, dicing, cracking, folding, rolling, pressing, making. Give me amaranth flour liberty, or give me breath. Buckwheat pancakes. Oh, rye and carob. Maybe a little banana there too. Angel food with a swirl of something, peppermint essence, butterscotch scone, lavender meltaways. The temperature is rising. Nurses despair. Patients refuse to get vaccinated. Some refuse to wear their mask, believing in a hoax eventually kills them all alone. It is toasted almond meringue crust, isn't it? The COVID is merciless. The dead are counting. The bodies gather in bags. The lime parfait could have been sweeter. There is mocha cream pop-up tiramisu. The lungs can't breathe. The lungs collapse. Intubate. Make the pudding from scratch. Knead the bread. Let it rise. The deaths keep coming. Don't be surprised. Bodies in our parks, in our streets before our eyes. The virus stays to compete. The elderly leave us behind. No goodbyes. Time for homemade kombucha with the mother, or every type of Mediterranean cuisine and all the different types of basil and rose infused teas. As you cling to life with some tube and gasp, a rhubarb strawberry cake and gingered tears, a shabby, chic, rustic iron crock, holding the obliging batter in a secure, hospitable place. No space, no bed. The cancer returned. A warm stove is friend, is confident. To open and close is mother's womb. There is no answer or treatment. Found dead 2 weeks later. A fire, a heat, a taste to treat, nourish against defeat. The unburied and unclaimed forgotten. Dying, bleeding, cough won't go away. Gasping in some hallway triggers memories of the gray halls of St. Vincent's Hospital. The uncared, untouched, unfed AIDS patient with a meal tray left outside of a room. Lack of care and humanity. The Catholic Church closed St. Vincent's for money, for real estate development cash, to pay off Catholic Church sex abuse scandals. To think how St. Vincent's Hospital could have provided needed beds during another virus. Where is our faith and charity? Let all the cakes burn and go to hell. I'm going to now, I feel like going to the conversation now, and then I'll have another reading at the end. I'm going to move this so you can see me, my new friend.
I want to start by kind of placing us here, kind of the way that you just did, and I want to thank you for being here. And I have all of the feelings in the feeling wheel right now in my heart. You know, everything is there. I mean, you thrill me, you scare me, you delight me, you inspire me. You know, all of the work that you do and have done, and what you represent to me, and at the same time, I'm recognizing, you know, you're just a schmo like the rest of us, which is, I think, what
I don't know about that.
No, you're right. Which is to say, you know, I mean, I think we could get into this, but celebrity culture, you know, the idea of the otherness of that, but I don't want to talk about that yet, because really what I want to do is place us here at Charis in these seats, and talk about this, and that is that Karen and I we have a lot of similarities, and we're roughly the same age, and that, you know, we're cis, white, educated, middle class, Midwestern roots. Obviously, families that valued knowledge, and we're coming from that place, and we're here together, and we have gone through. We were sort of listing these today when I picked her up from the airport. We have gone through a culture, you know, we've gone through an American culture since 1960 or so. And I'm just going to name for people who are younger than us what those things are. And I think you'll get a sense of the cultures that we're responding to as artists. So allow me to begin. We're similar ages, shared cultural histories, coffee houses, Summer of Love, Vietnam, Kent State, Charis books, Roe versus in independent bookstores and independent coffee houses, and women's spaces. Roe versus Wade is instated. Angela Davis, Audre Lorde, Malcolm X, MLK. Supreme Court is influenced by Jesse Helms in a great court battle, which is where I became aware of Karen. My awareness then also of that's when I learned about Robert Mapplethorpe and Andres Serrano and Pischrist, and the whole idea of what is obscene and what is obscene, and who gets to say what is obscene, and who gets to you know, the court case that Karen is, you know, now infamous for is really about free speech. It's really about who gets to say what we can or can't do, say, who are the gatekeepers, who gets to have that power. And it was an intense fight, and it was really clearly led. So I almost want to say that your work with the court was a performance of its own, how you used that. Ronald Reagan, Ollie North, the AIDS epidemic, where those of us of this age have great loss, and that was also similar to COVID, a virus of connection. It's a virus of relationship, that we had fear of mortality within touching one another. So, you know, the idea, and I think this just came up, the idea of the mundanity of it, like the pie crust being right next to an outside camp of zipped up body bags, you know, that there's just like, there's this total boredom and mundanity, and then existential fear. So like that idea of AIDS was very similar, but also AIDS victims being otherized by the administration, you know, this whole idea of there is an other, and that happens to those people, that doesn't happen to us. And I think part of what you did with the court case and what you do with your performance is say, no, y'all, this is what's going on. You know, we're all in this together. This, you're part of it. You know, misogyny is here, and this is what it looks like, and just that kind of thing. First, second, and third wave feminism. Michael Brown, Matthew Shepard, Tamir Rice, tragedy of trans treatment, misogyny, rape culture, violence, identity culture, Me Too, which came about as a sophisticated second wave of the idea of Me Too, of violence and sexual predation. And then, of course, we've seen the dissolution of Roe v. Wade and the current Supreme Court, influenced now by Donald Trump. So in a nutshell, that's our shared history. There's all kinds of nuances to that. You just witnessed a performance. It's poetry. It's also writing, and it's stories. But what Karen, I think what you do is it's so theatrical. Your performance is you become the voice. You know, you become that person, whoever it is that's making the plea, and you catch the stories and the subtleties like an artist would, of relationship. Another thing that I want to say is just, I think performance is a really direct, has direct impact. If you're performing, you are in a room with other people, and you can't help but be impacted by that. You're in a relationship with those people, so it's different. It's not passive in any way. You effectively are having a dialogue, and I think it's yeah. So that I just wanted to share that by means of introduction and who we are, and that you and I are sitting here almost as elders now, and one of the things that I noticed that you do that I really admire is a nourishing of I'm mentoring and teaching and loving of, well, hell. Karen came to my studio and I couldn't believe her generosity. I mean, it was just like, it was so, she saw me, she saw my work. She said, how about this and this? I mean, I was like, whoa, here's somebody who I think is great. And I'm surprised to have her in this space, which I did not clean up, and have you respond and really see that in the way that you did. I thought it was a very generous response. Oh. And then the other thing that I know from all of my research, which I love those. Yeah, these are my notes. I've had such a great week looking at your work, and these are my notes. So I have lots of questions and references, but one of the things is that when you talked, and I'm going to forget her name now, and I'm not going to look, but the woman who carried the mattress at Columbia. Oh, yes. Do you remember her name? Do you guys remember the story? So she was
Columbia,
right
yes.
At Columbia, yeah. So you went, and she had another work, and you went and interviewed her, like you saw her in the space, and she's, she was, it was a cool work. It was a cool work what she had done, but it was so, I could see this young woman. I mean, she must be 22 or 23, and having you come and interview her and ask her about her work. It just was such a, I could tell she was nervous and she was excited, and it was just that kind of empowerment that comes from somebody seeing you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's beautiful for you recognizing that. Oh, recognizing that. Well, isn't that the joy in the world, our relationships, meeting people, all of those kind of is this what I enjoy in my life. And so I just find that to be one of the, I'm lost for words because I enjoy it so much. When you meet people and you find kindred spirits, and you find people that you're interested in art or theater, and you have a conversation and you're just sharing the space together and observing, to me that's a beautiful way to spend time. And it's the pleasures of life. So I don't ever consider it to be work. I consider it like the pleasures of living, And young people, that is something because I know, I think that teaching or within our young people, it's important to mentor, to recognize people. And as much as we're on, the internet, meeting someone to be there and just to take that moment means everything. But it also gives me a place where it gives meaning and purpose to my life, because all of my training, everything that I've gone through, that I can be sharing, that is part of a circle. And it feels so magical, or it feels like you're part of the life process to be part of the circle. That's what I love about education and teaching. But I also wanted to say that I think that there is something in terms of the world of missing, and that is all the wars that we have been through. Yeah. We're born post-war, during the Korean War. This is such an important space in terms of its history with war. And we are in war now. And so I want to be bringing that up too, are all the wars that, and the constant wars, and the violence. So you can have violence in the home, on the street, but then there are, that it carries out in terms of in the world today, in just different ways. So I just wanted to, I think we all know it, but I just felt like wanting to say that.
Well, I could follow up on that just with the idea of government sanctioning. Like that's what a war is. A war is a declaration by a country versus this sort of silent war of misogyny and the things that we do. Um, do you want to talk at all about the administration that has us all in horror right now? The idea of like how do you? I mean, you said I'm not going to give up my humanity. I found that really hopeful. That's your basically your street revolution. I'm finding it really hard to think about anything but what the next visa denial is going to be, or deportation, or somebody picked up off the street. So making art within that.
Well, I want to go back on what you were just saying a moment ago about misogyny being, I don't know if you use the word silent or if it's more of an invisible
maybe, yeah.
But I don't think so. I think that when you have the, Trump talking about
Yes,
grabbing pussy,
yes.
right? You're saying these things that's a violence. I mean, maybe it's not there's a violence there.
Yeah.
That's violent. And I think that now with the removal at the Stonewall National Monument, which I am so proud of having in New York. That's something I'm very happy about, that's a bright spot. But that, that trans or there's certain is not allowed, that the flag is removed, that's a violence. That's a violence. Denying people, denying us for rights that we have fought for. So that to me that is a violence. It is a different type. So I don't think that it's silent. I don't think that misogyny is silent. I think that there's ways that in polite company that you learn, that you endure certain things in work and in harassment, and you hide in doing some things, I think, within ways. But I would have to say that is a violence. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I, one of my notes here, this one here, fear of offending. That we're complicit. I'm complicit in my silence. When I don't speak up, or when I don't recognize it. That I'm obeying these rules, and so that's just something I wanted to throw out. And also keeping our victims ready.
Well, I think it's very. I think it's very complicated, and in the idea of coding and surviving too, right? So you have certain deals or coding or way that you learn to how you modify or navigate situations of knowing what results or what could be happening, and that's within our lives, and that's we're seeing that happening everywhere in different ways, right? And we can see it in language. We can see it. It's happening, and there's even certain situations that at Thanksgiving, if you're with family members that maybe have voted for Trump or doing certain situations, you make a deal, saying I love them, or I'm going to stay quiet for it. So I think that that's a very complicated conversation, and I also feel. Not everyone has the privilege always to speak out. So I am more, it isn't hesitant, but I really want to take some carefulness, consideration before, I would say condemning, but putting people that have spoken out, that those are always the heroes, because people are, for me, in speaking out at certain times, it's because I had a certain privilege in my speaking out, and I think we were speaking about it, so my status, maybe I could be speaking out, for example, about gay rights at a certain time because I wasn't gay. I could be speaking out. I didn't have that same sanctions, although, put on me, not the same type of a violence or a fear. So I think that sometimes people have to think about surviving, And surviving is also being a hero too. And I just wanted, maybe it's in my older age, like at certain times when you're in your life, you might, if you have dependents or other people in another situation, it's very, very complicated in a situation. I wanted to say, if you're to have someone right now, if they have job support, I mean, that's why this is such a horrible time that we are here right now. And things are being thrown at us. And that's the reason why I think the Trump administration wants to stop education. And that's why they're out to stop visas with our students, because the students are being attacked first, and our colleges, because they know that students actually at that age, you have less dependence. You can go. You have that energy. You don't have as many dependents. And so that's, I think, a situation that's happening. And that's why it's
And
so
traditionally,
dangerous.
it's the colleges where the revolutions
Yes.
take hold, are kindled. Yeah. Can you speak to, so, I mean, I think, can you speak to the difference between art and activism? Is there a difference?
That's a great question. Huh. Yes, I do think, right? Because I think that when you're thinking about activism, you're not always, look, a Freudian slip. I said, when you think about activism, I said, you always think about art, was I was going to say. That's in my life, right? I think that art can always activates. I mean, I think that isn't to me like a yes or no question.
Right.
I don't like to be thinking about things in a binary that way. But I think that activism doesn't necessarily need art, although that activism in itself is an art to be doing it correctly. There's a composition, there's a design, there is an arc, there is a plan, there is an aesthetic to it, and there are many aspects to. There's thinking and there is theory, which I think that in art, and it's about representation, because really, what is visual art about? It's about representation and portrayal. And in activism, it is about a correction, or it is about dealing with representation, or in a portrayal of an issue. So I would look at it in that kind of a relationship, but I'm thinking about it more in terms of composition and in design.
Great. That's kind of my next question, is the idea that, art is art when art actually happens really has to do with the form. What are the skills that you're using, the craft of the art, the format, right? Is it music, or is it writing, or is it whatever it is, and the concept. And the concept, I think, is built on, if it's successful, reflection and response to the culture.
I think so, but I think that in the same way, I wouldn't be using that as a definition, though, always, for me. I feel that it's more complicated than that art is activism or activism is art. Because then those two words would be synonyms, and they aren't. Right. It isn't. You're putting them together. You put art, when you're going and you're looking up in a thesaurus, you're not seeing art, and then you get activism. And I think that I don't also like the idea that an artist has to be an activist. And I also don't like the idea that an activist has to be an artist in that way. I think that there are incredible skills and professions. And as well to that is, in terms of, I'm going to go back into my own life and experience about censorship, which was part of my life. And I was very articulate, and I was able to, I had the support. It was very, very difficult, but I had a support system, and I had a personality that could handle many of the elements. But that's really sad. That's really sad, because why should an artist have to have a certain personality or an education or circumstances in order to be able to defend their work. An artist shouldn't have to defend within their work or to be articulate. Art, an artist isn't, so I wanted to say that as well. Like an artist shouldn't have to be an activist. I think it would be wonderful if there was at a certain time like a peacetime artist. That means that the artist has to have something to complain about. The artist has to have a problem. I love making work, like I said, with a cake. I love a cake. I love beauty, and I was talking about it, and so that's why it's also a space of resistance where you are bringing in beauty in the world. You're not necessarily, you refuse to bend to whatever that phenomenon is. It's like as a resistance, in the same way that I would say the disco was a great haven. The dance floor could be a great haven in terms of the 70s or within, queer spaces. The disco would be an amazing place where people would come together. I worked in dance floors many times. So is the dance floor an activist space? Is the disco it's a sacred space, and is a sacred space then activism? So I like to think that art is also about sacred space.
I like that. And you mentioned beauty and you mentioned sacred, and I mean, art has an element of sublime. I'm going to ask you a question about that you asked that the young woman. What is your relationship to abstraction?
Well, at the time that when I was born, and we were talking about it, and I was in the mid 50s, which would have been at the height of abstraction. And women, when I was I got involved in the arts very much. And so I'm going to just tell a little bit of a timeline. And this is actually, I'm working on a new piece that is about like my education and support into the arts that I'm doing. But I was in the Chicago Art Institute going to school, and I would see, amazing art there. But I told myself that when I would see like a painting an artwork by Jean Dubuffet, did paintings, or Joe Moreau, that they were women. And because I didn't, but I made them. I think it's incredible that I created my own, mentors. And when I became older, also that for me, although there's been some incredible, amazing abstract women who have made art, for me at the time when I came in to making art, the history book that I had for the first time for art history, there are no women in it at all, the history of art. And I've done some artworks on it where I changed the cover and I had it, the history of fart. You can see it on my Instagram if you want to. And I've done a lot of work about that, but about, the absence, and so many people have done that. But I didn't have the privilege to be joining that cultural movement because there was no space for me. The only way that I saw my representation in the museum really was if I was objectified or I was represented. So I did not have that privilege. At least I didn't feel that I had that space, that I could even be part of a cultural movement that was even, European or Western, to be part of that. And so that's why I had to really use my body, because I felt that was about really the objectification, and that was really where I was in the art gallery, was in the representation.
Well, it's interesting. So I guess I mean abstraction in a larger sense, not the abstraction movement, but abstraction, the abstract qualities of chocolate all over your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think your work has extreme subtlety, even though it's, the old work, that it has been blatant, right? But it also has these nuances of just characteristics that I think are really thoughtful. And that's, I think, what I mean, like the craft of
Mhm.
beauty. How does something become beautiful?
Well, I think that abstraction also is in jazz. That's been a great influence to me. And so, abstraction in terms of living in a culture that you're in a discourse with
Yeah.
it. So, I'm in a discourse with abstraction, but being the resistance of doing things that would be um, stating issues is can be. I feel that some of my work of when I was coming to where I could find a space that I felt I had to make claims of speaking out, but I I haven't in my work. I do use abstraction, or I do some, like if you it has to do with scale. If you take any artwork or you take any words and you get up close to any painting, it's abstract.
Yeah.
Right? Anything you look at. And if you get far away, it is abstract. And as well, I have been the female is considered abstract because they're confused and they're hysterical. And so that is a form of abstraction because you're always hysterical. You're never really centered. You don't you have you can't hold you can't make a decision. Can't make up your mind. That's abstraction. There isn't a certain kind of a clarity. So the laughter, the way that you feel, you're overwhelmed. Menstruation. I see when I was menstruating, you're seeing abstraction every month. You're seeing a painting every month. You're seeing that, and so I know abstraction, but I'm making sense from my abstraction. Um, and so that's something to me is um, felt very meaningful for me, and that I got great joy, and I'll have to tell you, a sense of revenge. It doesn't come from it comes from a place of revenge, of social justice to get even too.
So power.
No, not so much of, I think maybe there is a certain power that goes on within the stage, but it is the idea that uh, I'll have to think about what that is. I mean, I think that it's more about empowerment rather than power.
Right.
Right.
Self-power.
Yeah. Like you're there and you're being and you're declaring this is what happened, or something going on in that. But also now in terms of performance theory,
Yeah.
there is kind of a feel of an embodiment.
Yeah.
And so that based on reality, like in naturalism, you can never really represent it's all becomes a removal from actual time. So I think that if we look at really any cultural uh, work production, it's never actually reality. Even when someone says something where they're just trying to be sleeping in a bed in a gallery or something, it's always framed so that it's removed somehow from that lived experience in some ways.
So tell me about performance in that context, like selecting performance as an art form.
I think the reason why is because is who I was. I would not be listened to or believed. I was not expected to be talented. I had no authority. If I had an opinion or whatever it was looking at me, are my tits big enough, really? So the idea that I have to take an authority in order to say what I did in an elevated way, I'm not saying, and that's what poetry is about. Poetry is about elevated language. And it's also about rhythm and beat, which is then speaking to the heart. So when I am performing, I'm performing in an elevated way, not in a actress way. I really feel like it's a performative way that an orator, a poetic voice, I think it's important. So that's what it is. To pay attention. It's a different, I use a lower register too, which is to be having more of a male, I'm dealing, I will take on the voice of the male. That's what was sort of new in my first book, Shock Treatment, where I would take on the different voice and I would then re-say what he was saying, speak for the man as opposed to the man speaking for the woman.
Yeah, as a reclaiming.
Yes. I think that so that it's a reclaiming and it's also
a reframing.
Reframing, yes, a reframing. And so anyway, that was an interesting kind of little thing we had here. I love that conversation. That was good. Thank you.
I'm not paying attention to time.
Time. Oh my goodness. Should I read my section, or we want to take some? Okay, read a section. Okay.
Why don't? I'm sorry. Yeah, let's move into that.
So this is actually, I'm going to read it from my script because I'll read it from this because it's from the book. No, I can put it here because you don't need it to be. You don't need this. I don't. You can hear me, so I'm just doing it for the. All right, and the lighting is so odd.
That's because the living room.
I love the seafoam color too. All right, so this is my piece at the end called Butterfly Transform. This mask reveals so much hatred. Forgive me, please. I can't love the hate away. There is too much hate in this world. My heart is not yet full. I escape into a selfish desire to turn the table. I so want to kiss this hate away, to hold this hate away, to look this hate away, to love this hate away. Oh, mercy, not even with paisley naivete, can't bear, can't stand the hate. Yet within there is a passion, a light, to cheer for love. Turn this hate to love, this sorrow to joy, action with every child's heart, every emerging hope. There is no vaccine for hate or a morning after pill. It is dangerous to compare, yet the sadness of loss is here. So many gone lingers, trying to submerge. Suffering surfaces, grief embodied, stay steady, as illness virus still surrounds us or memory, but always also remember the resilience, the courage, and humanity. Memories don't forsake and take us. You have your stories of pain, grief, and loss. Here we are now. I honor your stories and memories. Too many feelings to sort. Contrition, sorrow beckons like a turtleneck, and hang my head back with no way to escape. Drink it straight with one gulp. Lipstick stains my glass, and I wish on your mouth. Can I fuck this grief away? Can I eat this pain away? Can I mask this loss away? Can I cry this war away? Can I eat this war away? Can I cry this bombing away? Can I fuck this genocide away? Can I read this sorrow away? Can I make friends with this grief? Oh, loss, tell me your secrets, your loves, your desires, your dreams. We've seen some crazy shit out there, some crazy ass shit, sacred and profane, the humanity genocide, acting crazy, bursting at the seams, dropping off and out, flipping the bird. It's a real shit show. High alert, treacherous, bloody racist. We've seen some crazy shit out there. Meltdowns, outbreaks, surges, explosions, takedowns, insurrections, flare-ups, gusts, frenzies of anger, sudden eruptions of losing control, acting crazy, just losing it, mean, violent, just losing your shit, cargo, ammo, breaking at the seams, white people getting all mad because their brand of toilet paper is out. White people getting all crazy because they have to wear a mask on a plane. People all crazy because they lost an election or that people protest against guns. White men so violent, crazy. They're just blowing humanity to smithereens. There's so many catastrophic things that occur. Where do we begin or end? Doors that didn't close, windows that won't open, ceilings that can't be reached. Can we save our humanity? Can we protect ourselves? Isn't there another way out? Can't this violence end? Don't take this trauma for granted. Hallways, schools, groceries, houses of worship, movies, subways, airports, malls, parks, cars, home, and streets. Don't give up, the Spirit whispers. Can we have peace in our purpose? How can we save this planet from ourselves? How alarming the situation has become. Can creativity transform this hate? Can our spirit move us for social justice? May we inspire a new future? Let's insist that restoration and reparation are possible. There is ingenuity and sparkle in your dance magic ritual. There is birth and renewal. Listen to the illuminated drag queen story hour. Have a vision revolution as artists take to the streets. It's an art revolution. Make art, not hate. Be public with your art. Don't take soul for granted. Our bodies are ours. Leave space for love. Little love grows to big love. So I leave you here for you. So I leave you here for you to keep your heart strong. Courage with love. Be generous with our love, art, and humanity. Let us believe in each other. Offer support, to be heard, to have choice. There have been too many not believed. It is about belief, being believed, trust, and support to show up. My body is not yours. Remember, witness, if only Anita Hill was believed. If only, if only. I believe you. You do not have to justify, validate, give the evidence, put your hands up, prove, pull your panties down. Have the photo proof, the cash, the receipt, the down payment, the degree, the resume. I believe your experience, your life, your decision, your body, what happened to you. And when you stop speaking up, for you know you wouldn't be believed. You weren't expected to be talented, to amount to anything. You are here for others' pleasures, desires, and needs. But today, let us believe, support, encourage, inspire, acknowledge, compliment, say hello. Say, it's good to see you. Say, hello, I'm so glad to see you. It's been so long, even if you have never seen them before. And that's how it starts, like the butterfly, and that's how it continues. Find your secret garden. Let me be a garden, be a garden. All the different seasons, flowers, and views of nature. Thank you for coming to my garden, for coming to play. And when you close this book, look up, look out, look in. It's an examine life that is meaningful and gives purpose. It is in gathering in public that gives fellowship. It is the hot spot, our heart hot spot, that holds our dreams and hopes. Because maybe my life will be better if I can dream of a magic garden. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I see some theater. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I start a festival. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I become a friend. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I make some art. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I write a poem. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I get up and dance. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I play some music. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I sing my heart out. It will. Maybe my life will be better if we make a performance together. It will. Maybe my life will be better if I share my art with you. It has. Thank you. So, do we have time for some questions? All right.
Yeah, so I want to open it up and I'll bring anybody the mic who wants to speak in here. Yeah.
Hey, Karen, thank you. That was
Hello.
great.
Thank you.
I was thinking that all the great movements of turmoil in our life have had this explosion of art activity. The counterculture after Vietnam, tons of artists. Second wave feminism produces all this art. ACT UP comes a rap out, and there's this explosion in art thinking around it. And right now, and I'm someone who teaches college in studio art, I don't see an explosion of angry, compelling art being made by the 20-year-olds around me. What's going on?
I will thank you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for your work and that you're a teacher. And I want to acknowledge and thank you for all the work that you've put into it, because now, teachers are threatened. And I hope that you are safe with you and your students. That's such a it's such a pressure to be putting on our young people. I'm seeing incredible art being made. I'm seeing extraordinary work being made. I think the fact that under the conditions of what's happening, anything that anyone is making right now is fantastic. I think that the appreciation under these conditions are not like any other conditions before. And so what I would be saying is to be looking there and what is happening in there, and what are you seeing? What is happening here? Two, in terms of an explosion of within a cultural movement, it doesn't usually happen right in that moment. All right, like surrealism wasn't happening, which is basically a response to World War I, and Freud, right? It isn't happening while the war is happening. The same way rock and roll didn't happen when it happened. Buto dance didn't happen during the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And so that's the same thing too, but it's setting the ground and it's there. And a cultural movement is different than an individual response. A cultural movement is about collective, unconscious working together, things happening, right? Just at that. So you're setting the ground for it. It's going to be happening. You could be seeing it in moments. And also it's about observation. And I'm sure that you could be guiding, but maybe it is sometimes the work happens in invisible ways or in other ways, what that would be. But I think sometimes that phenomenon happens not at the same times in terms of art happening. Act Up did not happen in 1982. It happened later, and it was a gradual kind of situation. And but the people that meet in college, they stay friends, they stay together, they have a space of safety, and then they become a cultural movement, or connections then happens, and you can give them the framework that then they can be working on. So that's what I think. But I think there's other ways that we can look at. I just want to take another moment with that, because I think it's other ways. If there's going to be rallies, sometimes you can see things. It can be in dress. It can be other kind of ways of reading. I think that's a very great question, and I'm going to start thinking about that more. Thank you.
This has been a really trippy, fascinating, surreal experience for me. Because I remember thinking in 2020 and 2021, and I was super, super sick because I'm a long hauler. But I remember having these moments where I was like, people are going to make the wackiest, weird melding together sort of surreal art out of this time. And it was one of those moments that I didn't really feel like it was my job. I ended up making very different art out of that experience. But I'm just curious, the origins of this, was it stuff you were writing in 2020 and 2021, the thick of it, or was it things that emerged later and kind of reflecting back?
Thank you for that question, and I hope that your health with long haul COVID. Want to just send you my feelings for your support. All right, so that's a great question. I like to think about in terms of, in art, there's representation, and I love the eye-hand coordination because I did start out in life drawing. I just love that. Okay, that's one of my favorite things to be doing, because I love eye-hand movement and scene, and I love the figure and the body and that, But another kind of situation that I like is I like to think about the idea as the artist as the historical recorder. So while this was happening, I take my role or my profession real seriously. Like, okay, what can I be doing? How can I be of service? Not from always in the idea, the position, oh, what do I need? What is this idea? Like, I think that that's important. But that then can also be therapeutic. But I am interested in doing another step, which is the idea of thinking about within that responsible, like the artist's role or profession within society and what I can be doing, even if it only stays just with me, but just that action in itself. So that's what I use, the artist as historical recorder. And I then decided to take that way. It was very, very hard because I think, everyone, I started just with words, but I started, how I started processing it is that I ran out of drawing paper. And so I started writing work, taking maps and I only had Sumi ink. And you can see if you go back to 2020, I was doing a lot of words on top of found paper pages. And so some of those then came into, I just started processing with just certain words, and it took a long process that I was doing, but I was determined and I had time on my hands. And so that's what how I started to do.
Thanks.
And this was originally a performance, and the visual art. I have an archive of these visual artworks that I was making at the same time.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit. Charis is a place that part of our mission is to center marginalized voices, right? And one of the ways that we do that is by continually paying attention to who is no longer marginalized or what kinds of art is no longer marginalized because it's been sort of assimilated into the mainstream. Okay. But then that changes, right? Like at this moment, books that in 2020 were in the vanguard are now being attacked, right? So there are these things that go in waves, right? It's not a static thing. But I was thinking a lot about, like, if you could maybe speak to the utility of obscenity or the utility of, one of the things that we say at Charis is we're here for the freaks and the geeks, like not just like LGBTQ people, but like yes. We want the weirdos. Like we want not just the queer kids, but like yeah, not like we want the weirdo queer kids, right? Like we want the perverts. We want all of the really like the people who don't fit in even within the rainbow in a certain right. like easily discernible way. And so, I'm wondering, you've done a lot of like intentionally provocative things in your art, and I'm wondering for you what that has meant, like the utility of it or how it kind of, because sometimes people are like, well, what's the point of that? Like, why should we center, perversity, or why should we be proud of that? Like, right. Like, shouldn't we, try and make people more able to function in a certain kind of mainstreaming way? Isn't that better for them, particularly if we're talking about younger people? And I don't think that's true, but I'm curious kind of how that's been a through line in your life, if you would say that it has.
I think that what you're saying is what some of the danger of what we're seeing in today's world, that the idea of in free speech is to be offended too, that is and that people can have choice, choice about what their body, what they wear, how they're spending their time. And so, yes, I mean, I think that's definite. And I think that it's becoming more and more narrow what the boundaries are, or even, in the way that people are supposed to be expressing their gender, or how what they're supposed to read, their own personal life, and in the privacies. And I just think it's just very, very dangerous. So that's why this bookstore is a beacon, and I think it's the independent bookstores that really are really so important and vital for our communities, and that within our communities that it being here. And so I guess I would just like, I think what you're doing is just fantastic. So I don't think that I need to expand or over talk about what you've been doing so beautifully here for 50 years. I just applaud it, and I just think it's how important that is. And I hope that you continue for more than another 50 years. Is that all?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nell Ruby.
Oh, I think Nell, Nell,
you want to have the
say
last
with
word,
closing?
Nell?
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get a lot of what I think Karen's really good at tonight in terms of humor. This is pretty heavy. It's heavy times, but she's hysterical. You know, you can sort of just read her titles of her books. For example, this one, which is like the electric Kool-Aid acid.
Oh, yes.
Test. I mean,
Okay.
the idea, you know, that and Pooh Unplugged, you know, with the psychological profile of the characters in Winnie the Pooh, but just anyway, just that. I wanted to say that.
I do use humor a lot in
we
my
talked
work.
a little bit about we talked about if you're not laughing, we're all dead.
Yeah,
you know,
there has to be,
together.
I think, in the same way in terms of, well, joy doesn't involve laughter, right? And a smile, and to have within that space. So I guess also that's something that I'll just say for a person is Joan Rivers is a person who is much, and in some ways even with her caustic ways, but whatever, but she was a person that really believed in that, and I learned a lot
That's cool.
from her. And so from, you know, survivors and people, I think humor is incredible. I think that is redundant in some ways, saying humor is incredible. But I'll end there before I start getting my foot in my mouth. But thank you so much.
And I wanted
at moments I can be funny, yes.
You're hysterical. But I wanted to also thank you. I wanted to thank you for coming. I wanted to thank you for doing the local thing. Like what you're just applauding Charis for, I think is what is super important. I think probably everybody here believes that. You know, it's like this is the heartbeat. This is it. And I wanted to thank you for your teaching, which I believe is an act of love. It's a service. We're not in it for the money.
Yeah, let's also for our virtual audience too, please buy a book from Charis. You can do that, I'm sure, online, because Little Bits, this is
just click the button.
Click the button, please.
Click the teal button at the bottom center of the screen.
If you want to, I'll be signing books, and I can send it to you too, because we have to, it costs money there. I don't think that you get any NEH grants or NEA grants, or
I don't know that anybody's getting those these
days. Of Georgia grants, or, you know, I don't think Trump is saying let's go fund
support
them. Okay, so let's remember that. Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
And I just want to say from the Charis and the whole community, thank you for coming to our garden.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And Nell, is Nell like incredible, please?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks to everybody watching online. Y'all stay safe, and we'll see you next